Is that of broadcaster, activist, gender activist must qualify that, and also now a member of the NDC's national communications team, Shamima Muslim. She's here in flesh and blood, and that was her last Saturday at the hugely heavily attended event. The review so far says dazzled with brilliance. Shamima, good morning. Welcome. How are you doing?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good
Johnny.
to see you. I didn't know you were this charismatic up there on this political. Was that your first time?
On the political platform? Yes. Of such magnitude.
We know that you speak. We know that you're a good advocate and all of that. But on this political platform,
I also didn't know.
I see. Because Helen was asking me, Shamima always been...
Yes,
what's happening?
but I have. I did student politics, right? So from Legon, I was a student politician from year 1 to year 4, actually.
Right.
So, and, doing Radio Universe at Legon was really the foundational, that helped to nurture the talent and the art of public speaking and confidence. And then those were consolidated further as a member of the General Assembly and also as a representative of the Volta Hall Senate. And so, throughout I was vice chair of Women's Commission. I became local NUCS president and Legon External Affairs, officer, members of the Press and Communication Committee. I represented candidates on their campaign on campus in Volta Hall. In fact, I started the student politics with Michael Pesa-White. He was the running mate to one Ken Gomado, a very brilliant guy in the 2000-2001 academic year, and they invited me to be their campaign manager in Volta Hall. So that's really where it started. And activism is about speaking passionately about what you love. And I started it quite early because immediately after Legon I went into development work, and very early on I joined the Domestic Violence Coalition. That must have been in 2003. So imagine there's a certain flair that comes with consistent practice in an area of your choice. So when you're even moved onto a different platform, you fall back on the same skills that you've honed over the years. So it served me well.
Why the NDC?
Why the NDC? I personally believe that the NDC is a more nationalistic party. I think that the ideals of social democracy sits very well with my own reality, my own background. And in fact, for the majority of Ghanaians, because of the evolution that we have seen as a country growing over the years, in poverty, in inequalities, in all kinds of marginalizations, and the fact that we're still not able to truly break the transformational agenda. Since independence, we've seen some gains, haven't we? And yet, real transformation continue to elude us. I think that a party that pushes ideologically a principle of letting all of us believe that this country is owned by all of us equally, as our constitution envisages, because once you're a citizen, you are a bona fide member of this society, you are entitled to all the benefits of being a citizen. The gains of progress must reach you equally and equitably. That is the philosophy that I very well sit comfortably in, as opposed to a mentality of property-owning democracy, development in freedom, but development that works for just a few people, as I have seen the nature of the New Patriotic Party in governance then and now, and especially now. I think it's more really stark now what a property-owning democracy can actually become if we let it go unbridled. Just like, the pursuit of capitalism unbridled capitalism leads to greed and leads to deepening of inequalities in a society. So that is why NDC is home for me.
Before we get lost in all of this, yesterday there's big news from Parliament.
True.
The affirmative action bill has been passed, and Helen has been doing 2-0. Helen has been doing 2-0 since yesterday on our page.
As expected.
And this morning she came starting in with some vim.
With vim and vigor. With a renewed life in her stride.
Doing 2-0 all over the place.
I'm yet to start because I've been touting this stat from the UN that the UN says that if we carry on in this trajectory, it could take us over a century, over 140 years for women to attain the same levels of power as our male counterparts. So of course I'm doing 2-0.
Shamima, what do you think? You've been a key advocate for this for a decade and more.
More, actually, because the entire empowerment conversations is not today. I like I told you, I worked with the likes of the forerunners of the women's movement in Ghana right after graduation. I was the youngest in that coalition. Some of them have transitioned into politics. Angela Dramina Boaje, Dr. Estofea Boaje, Audrey Gajepo,
the
Oyelitas. No, Oyelita. I mean, she's been very transformational. I beg your pardon. Bampo Ado. Yeah. So, Honorable, forgive me. You know, I've told you. I've asked her forgiveness for that. The name just sits because that's really, it was the height of that I encountered, and she's been very impactful to me in my advocacy journey. So the entire campaigns have been ongoing. Sometimes there's even this lethargy and exhaustion because we take one step forward and then we retrogress. And last year when we after the local government elections, when the results came and we saw how very poorly the female candidates had performed, 4.1 or so percent, elected assembly officials, in the local governance system, where in the whole country, in the entire country of Ghana, where women are the primary users and producers of services in the locality. Because if you take local governance, that really is the hub for the operations of women who are majority in the informal sector. So it is a welcome news to us. It's a good first step, but our experience with the Domestic Violence Act shows us that the real work really comes after the passage of the law, because as we even speak today, the Domestic Violence Act isn't being fully operationalized. There are still major challenges with even going to the hospital to ascertain a report of rape. Our hospitals, our police stations, there's a report that came to me of a father that had defiled his daughter, and the mother took the matter to the police station, and the police station told her to go back home. The police officer told her to go back home and be sure that she wants to proceed with the case. Yes, up to date, the matter, she has not taken up the matter. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done in training the frontliners in the implementation of any policy. They can make it work, or they can mitigate the work against the implementation of same. So like the Speaker of Parliament said, the real work begins after the law is signed.
Do you think that the President will assent to this bill? I mean, there are 4 or so before him now that is not too sure if he wants to sign or not.
This one is a very low-hanging fruit for him to redeem his image. And I had to say that this morning, because when the President went to Canada a couple of years back at a women's leader conference, and he was asked frontally why the low representation of women in his government, when he himself had promised at least 30%, which is the UN benchmark, that all nations must try to reach the 30% benchmark in terms of representation of women across public life. Okay, his question was that Ghanaian women hadn't shown enough dynamism. It was a big blow. The furore it created on our pages. We were really saddened, because this is the man who was who was crowned AU gender champion.
That's right.
You know, you may share some of the practical barriers to women's participation, but what you cannot do is to, in one, brush stroke, discount the efforts of Ghanaian women by telling us that we haven't shown enough dynamism. When you know the barriers to participating in politics, when you know that when we called for ensuring that women contest in safe seats on the ticket of political parties, so that at least if they win the primaries, you know that they are coming to parliament. These are practical affirmative action interventions. Parties did not do that. When we say reduce the filing fees, because women don't own a lot of capital, even though they are the back of the informal economy. MasterCard Foundation, Ghana has been in the top 3 countries in their reports of women entrepreneurs globally. Ghana, in 1 year, Ghana was even topped. Was the first. But these are all women working in the micro to medium small scale economy. But the big capital is in the hands of men. So a businessman can afford to run and execute his own campaign, as we have seen, and later on even want to go and buy state assets because they have the money, because they have capital, because the society allows for men to be able to do that, historically. When you make those kinds of comments, you take the fight back, because then you blame the women for their underrepresentation, whilst you know that financial barriers are real, social cultural barriers are real, and even practical reproductive expectations
so he
of
has
women
a chance to redeem
himself in the next 4 years. Prioritize it, situate the implementation in the office of the presidency. In my speech I said that they had allocated $2 billion. It's $2 billion to the office of the presidency. I don't know what is happening in the office of the presidency, so let me just correct that. And also, when you're in the heat of the moment, I wrote the figures down, but somehow the Atuabu gas is actually giving us $300 million per year, as a result of the Atuabu gas. So that's just by the way. So situate the implementation of this, at least the rollout, in your office. Prioritize it. Ensure that the various things that are supposed to do to ensure a full operationalization starts, before you leave office and before the MPP leaves office, so that at least JM doesn't mind giving praise where praise is due.
Break the 8 so that they can continue with some of the things you're asking them.
They can't break the 8. Even you and I know that they won't break the 8.
Why are you so confident?
I'm confident because of the realities of today that we live in. I'm confident because of their own invitation to do a competent analysis, an analysis based on competence, character, and conduct. They invite us into those realms 4 years ago, 8 years ago, when they sought the mandate of the people. I am confident because of their own promises that they made to Ghanaians. And I always say that the NDC is not the accountability partner of the New Patriotic Party. The accountability partner of the NPP in government is the people of Ghana, to whom His Excellency, the Vice President, had cause to refer JM to in 2016 when he called for a debate to go and debate. If it was true, then it must be true today. If those issues were true, then they must be true today. And on the face of the same specific indicators, on the face of the numbers, on the face of the conduct and behavior in power and in opposition, no one can come to a logical conclusion that the NPP has done better on the face of their own indicators, their own measures of a progressive working society.
Have you seen the performance tracker touting the achievements of the government? They have constructed more roads than anybody, any government. Schools, free SHS. Yesterday, the Minister for Education did the state of education in Ghana. I will
not be like the NPP, who sees no good in any government at all. There's no government that would come in and be giving the taxpayers money and they will not be expected to implement some policies or projects. Every government, to the extent that they have resources, would execute some projects. For the projects that they have executed, I say well done to them. But the bottom line remains that for the monies that they have borrowed, over 600 billion cedis. The public debt now stands at 742 billion, 70.12% of debt to GDP ratio, which is really unsustainable limits. 2 years ago, it was at 104%. Unprecedented. If you look at what JM borrowed, 44 billion cedis is what JM borrowed. And if you look at what he was also able to achieve in his 4-year mandate, we talk about the Atuabo gas processing plant, we talk about the Bank of Ghana Hospital, the Legon Medical Center, the Tamale International Airport, we talk about the Terminal 3. Just right here, we talk about the Tema Port expansion. We talk about the E-blocks that was supposed to deal with the access issues. Today, children had to. We saw what we saw with the rush implementation of the free senior high school. Nobody will say that but for education, some of us will not be here. But for the opportunity, so no one in their right sense can say no to educating its citizens. But I'm saying on the same figures. I mean, I was in the media at the time that the late Evans Atta Mills achieved a single-digit inflation.
Right.
Single-digit inflation. It was poo-pooed by the NPP then when they came on my shows. That what is our obsession with inflation targeting when the economy was not operating at full optimum. They had issues. At the time, we had even reached a certain 60 to 60% debt to GDP ratio. All hell was breaking loose. Even some of us were very critical, because we were also wondering why, if the threshold is 70% and beyond, if you're doing 60 to 65, you're hitting there, even though we hadn't gotten there. And they were making investment in infrastructure. The NDC has always believed in infrastructure. And when I look back now, I see the reason why. Because without the infrastructure, how do you take off? What are you building upon? Had they not set the foundation? The NPP is the only party, and its antecedent. And yesterday I was saying it. Johnny, it is the NPP's antecedent that truncated Ghana's development path by bringing about the 1966 coup. Oh. It is them that truncated Ghana's forward movement. After it was so personal, because when Nkrumah came and took the shine off them, they could not accept it, and they have never accepted it up to date. That is why they have also given us the nature of our politics, because it was PNDC, NDC that gave Ghana the most stabilizing period of our democracy. But
Nana is greater than Dr. Nkrumah.
Well, don't even repeat it. You see, I'm saying don't repeat these contrived narratives.
But but
don't even repeat it. Don't give it power, because it cannot be true. It cannot be true that the government that has borrowed more than all these governments under the Fourth Republic combined and has failed to deliver on their own promise of moving us from a Gadgetsburg economy, and then we are so far away from a promised land. They've taken us back to the hardships of the Pharaoh era. I'm saying that the MPP is responsible for our current state of affairs. They introduced military coups into our system, and Ghana was bedecked with a series of military coups until PNDC, NDC transition, and they are always very quick to blame or criticize. Nobody will sit here and justify excesses of any military regime.
Right.
There were very sad excesses across all military regimes, but MPP's antecedents is to blame for their impatience, for their belief and mentality that they are the only people with a mandate to rule this nation, and anybody else is never good enough. And when the mentality is weak, the reality would expose you, and the reality has exposed NPP for what they are.
Are you saying the NPP is disruptive?
They are disruptive. And when they came, when we transitioned, I was saying that the PNDC, NDC, and His Excellency Jerry John Rawlings, no matter what you have to say about him, has been the most stabilizing force of our democracy. Because after the PNDC and the transition into the Fourth Republic, we are still under a Fourth Republic, 32 years on. Something right must have been done. To stabilize to stabilize and prevent a fall back into any military regimes. We haven't had any military interventions.
That's right.
Now, what did they do in 1992? After the PNDC was open to transitioning into a democratic regime, the preparation of the 1992 constitution, what was their approach to it? They sat out of the 1992 elections, and it was their tone that determined how our politics has become. Today, Kweku Kwarteng is bemoaning the nature of our politics, where your opponent is evil, does no good, and you come and you want to be seen as an angel. But for the nature and their conduct when they were seeking power, coming in and condemning everything that the PNDC, NDC had done, the foundations that they had built upon which they came to work upon. They usually come and say that we should show what social intervention policies
we have heard
NDC.
that many times.
Yes, what is more social intervention than the 1992 Constitution that spelled out the directive principles of state policy. The vision is in there. Everything that they tell us today draws from that vision in the Constitution. The GET Fund is being the most transformative intervention brought about by the NDC. So if you ask today what social interventions the NDC has brought about, you forget very easily the GET Fund.
They say, for example,
you
that
forget very easily.
You're a socialist party, so that is supposed to be your forte. They are a capitalist party, and that's not supposed to be their job. But if you look at what they have been able to do within that social intervention bracket versus you, the socialists, they have outdone you.
What we have to ask them, what have they taken? You see, capitalist countries and nations, they always throw carrots to the masses. Follow the money, and you will see where the money really has gone. And you would know that they could have done quadruple times more with the resources. It is a strategy to keep the masses blinded to the real plunderings.
So they give you a little, and you are happy.
You have seen.
You make merry.
Haven't you seen?
No, I'm asking.
I'm asking.
I don't understand.
Yes,
I don't
that
understand.
is. No, you've been saying you understand.
No, I don't understand you.
I've been watching your Johnny's bites.
I don't
Biting
understand.
them left, right, and center.
Helen, do you
because
understand?
truth is one.
You know what?
Do you understand?
Do you know what is very interesting about this conversation about social intervention, right? And I've heard the likes of Stika, that's the MP for Nshaya,
Right.
so a deputy finance minister, and he was making some juxtapositions when we're talking about Kenya and other countries, and he goes, "Oh, we've done more in Ghana than for the Kenyans." Well, you've got more people. Well, obviously you're going to have to do more because you've plunged more people into poverty. 7.3 million Ghanaians are multi-dimensionally poor. So that argument that we're doing more for the poor sometimes is an own goal, because why do you have so many that now you have to do so much intervention? As opposed to making their environment so fertile, so buoyant for business, and everybody's okay. You don't have to now service or find so many poor people to help. That's for me is the logic that I draw.
Shamima, what kind of pressure is on you? First as a public figure, two as a gender activist, three now a politician. I'm sure that people will bounce their economic pressures on you now that they feel it. What has been the pressure on
but
you?
it was there before,
I know, but I'm saying that now.
Yeah.
If you look at the situation we have now.
Now I'm even. I have quite a bit of empathy for our political leaders. You see, me, I'm an activist everywhere I am, and you can be assured that whatever the lived experience of this period are issues I would highlight, because you see, we must build a democracy where citizens truly understand and claim their power. And we must build a democracy where citizens also do understand the realities of governance, so that we can make realistic demands, but also make realistic and strict and demands of accountability. We must build that. And we can only do that if we are sharing these realities and highlighting the areas that, we should work against, that also give. Because so politicians, for example, must always be measured in their in building the expectations of the masses.
Right.
Okay, and the masses must always expect strict accountability over the politicians.
But those who want to open the eyes of the people for them to demand these answers you're asking, I often told to shut up. I have had too many shut up.
So don't.
In different ways.
Yes. But we can't afford to shut up.
Not everybody is bold enough to say, I won't shut up.
And that's why I'm saying that today, the moral voice is the energy of accountability that we witnessed under the era of JM is missing today. And I'm saying that it must be because of one or two things. Either they feel betrayed, those voices that were, that scream themselves hoarse, and rightly so. If you think that things are not going well, we have to speak about it, isn't it? Those voices are quiet.
But some of those voices are in government. The Yofi grants, the
so they remove. They forget about them.
But they were Occupy Ghana.
So
you Occupy Ghana
agenda. So
people.
they've become part of the problem, have they not? So we must work so hard in ensuring a certain level of congruence and integrity, even when you find yourself, because people would have to evolve, right? Change is only constant in life.
If I ask you to assess Nanado, what would you say?
I would say that
the Nanado that you interviewed, that you knew from back in the day, and Nanado in power now.
I was one of those who was inspired by the stories of Nana Akufo-Addo as a young man who all his life has had one goal, to grow and lead this country.
Right.
And when he became president, I said, okay, well, this is a story of inspiration, that you can have a dream, no matter how far-fetched or how close, you can have a dream, and you can work so very hard to achieve that dream. So it's a positive value that, people can learn from. And his activism and his advocacies, and the things he did, pushing for human rights and democracy, which today stands in sharp variance to the reality of his governance. What I was really shocked about was the report of Afrobarometer, when it says that under the AU gender champion, under the vanguard of democracy, because that is what he was touted to us,
right,
that he has shown increasing high-handedness, stifling media freedoms, and eroding democratic institutions and accountability institutions. That is Afrobarometer who said it. I didn't say it.
Right.
And when you look at the reality, it's true. Under his leadership, we've reported, since 2019, we've reported 79 cases of violations against journalists.
Including the death
Media
of
Foundation, Ahmed Swale, which has still not seen a resolution. Do you see it? Under his watch, you set up an office of special prosecutor. The first prosecutor resigns unceremoniously with a long letter telling us that he feels you are the mother serpent of corruption. Martin Amidu.
Right.
And what does his replacement do? Young, dynamic replacement, Kisi Ajabin, is now reduced to singing dirges and lamentations. What is wrong? There's something wrong. There's something deeply not congruent about what we have been made to think and believe about, President Akufo-Addo and what has actually transpired under his watch. And for me, the most shocking and surprising but painful aspect of his leadership was his letter to Cecilia Dapa.
Right.
His Dear Cecilia letter.
Reassuring her that everything will be okay, that she will come out unscathed.
I could not believe it. I still don't want to think that he wrote that letter. Because at a time that the Bank of Ghana, which is now 60.8 billion cedis, is it? Bankrupt, at a time that this nation was on its knees and the cedi has so galloped away. How much is it now? $1 is about 16?
Yeah, almost 16.
16 cedis.
15.
The losses
84.
to businesses, the forex losses, the collapse of businesses. And your minister was on air warning his opposition members that they should stop creating fear and panic. And they should stop advising citizens to keep their dollars. When Cecilia Dapa, how much money did she keep in her house?
There's $1 million.
Over $1 million, euros, cedis, pounds. And you saw nothing wrong with the optics of such. The dissonance between the president's on awareness, on acknowledgement of the wrong. You know, imagine if he had just kept if he had kept a line in that letter that's keeping such amounts of money in a time when we are urging Ghanaians not to take dollars, flies in the face of our own values. And for that, I am disappointed in you.
You wanted him to say that?
I wanted him to say that. That is what integrity calls for. That is what the president cannot elevate the people he loves over and above the sentiments, even the sentiments of his own government. So what he tells us is that he elevates individuals over and above his own expressed values.
All right.
Because he told people that if you wanted money, don't come into public service. Stay in business. You know what one of their businessmen told me?
No.
That today it is the political appointees who have become the businessmen. And they who were businessmen had today left scrambling for crumbs. Dissonance, complete dissonance, complete incongruence between what you have preached and what the outlook of your administration is.
If you listen to government communicators and people who are close to power, they seem to disagree with you. And they would say that, look, we're trying to paint a gloomy picture because Nana is not who we try to paint him as he is.
Nana is a ride or die. When you show him loyalty, when you show him unalloyed, is that the word?
Right.
Loyalty. You have no problem. He will remove you from the deepest of pits. That's why Manasseh says that he's a clearing agent, which he denies. He denies that he is not, because he believes in the rule of law. But when the optics are even bad, in the face of bad optics, it is not a rule of law matter we are saying, no. So Cecilia Depar should naturally go through the justice process. But the optics of a minister of state keeping such colossal sums of money flies in the face of any good governance ethic.
I said you saying these things means that you want to destroy the legacy he wants to leave behind.
What legacy?
That's what you are doing.
Oh, but no, we won't. His legacy would be there. His legacy is stark, it's clear. His legacy of colossal mismanagement of the economy, bringing down this economy to its knees at a time that you promised us that you know how to bring the economy back,
not the
but
lives.
And in the same breath, your actions led to the loss of lives of pensioners whose head you cut. Unprecedented though are the happenings in this country. A former Chief Justice Sophia Kufu, if all moral voices will not stand up, we must give her ladyship, is it?
Yeah, her ladyship.
Her flowers.
The former CJ.
She's a deep voice of conscience. She, more than most, who understands rule of law better than her? She, former Chief Justice of this republic.
Right.
It
has never happened before.
It has never happened.
Former Chief Justice is on the streets,
empathizing
with
pensioners with placards.
Never happened.
Never. And beyond that, she sat down with the media and expressed her deep misgivings about the management of the economy. See, we run a democracy. Parties will come, parties will go, governments will come, governments will go. So at every point in time, we must look at what a party came to do and assess their performance based on their own promises and outcomes and impact and transgressions, and make a value judgment that they do not deserve a renewed mandate. How do you break the 8? You have not performed sterlingly different than any of these past administrations who were giving just 8-year mandates. So you see, the Ghanaian mentality relates more to parties than individuals. That's why JM was not able to get a second term, because they still viewed JM as part of the Atta Mills and NDC 8-year regime. Not because people didn't like the man and his persona. You know, Ghanaians are freer to express themselves, as you and I know, under Mills and JM than we are today, where we are all saying and confessing that we are self-censoring ourselves. You see, and these are real things. These are not contrived things. These are lived experiences. Manasseh Azuri, who is going to launch his book on the 8th, the president Ghana never got. Because you promised us something, and I know he's going to have some things to say in that book.
Do you think that Donado will attend? Because when Manasseh wrote about JM,
this is the character thing I'm speaking about. I said when, even in opposition, when you criticize, you know, there's not everything you say. Me, I said that I have lived very closely and worked very closely with all of them, in opposition and in government. I was the 2012 co-moderator of the IEA debate.
That's correct.
As a result of some sentiments expressed against me, I was not put on the presidential debate. I was put on the vice presidential debate. I had a quarrel with an NDC person on air. So many people from the NDC called me to calm me down, including Auntie Lodina Mahama.
Really?
Hard hitting. I was in the media when the NDC was in power. I was not in the media when MPP came to power.
That's right.
But even in opposition, I saw their intolerance to criticism. Auntie Lodina called me and said, Meba, udia yewe juma wai. O papa na otiasiye yewe juma. These are the humans I'm talking about. And character does matter. And how we experience people matter. And many of us, even though there were some transgressions, even against journalists, under the period of John Mahama. Look, the persona of Atta Mills and how he wanted us to depart from the vindictiveness of our politics. When he came to power, allowed MMDCs to stay in power. Says he was not interested in witch hunting for people who did wrong, because he wanted to reset this nation and bring us back to a more progressive situation where you can disagree forcibly. But on the most important things, we must align. How can we as a nation not align on the most important things of education, of how to deal with our economic structure? Because no country, if we don't deal with the economic structure, all these problems will continue to come. We are the only people who are the cause of our problem, who know our problem, and what we want to do is complain about the problem, and what requires to be done collaboratively is not being allowed to be done, because some people always believe that they are superior and they must always be the people to be in charge of affairs.
There is the Agyapa document. I'm sure you've seen that. Sorry about that. The Ochehene said it's a fiction because it's just targeted at making Achim people look bad. What do you think?
I am relating what Ghanaians feel. Because me too, when I saw that document years back, I was like, how possible can a group of people sit and dream out, these things?
So
grand plan. I had my doubt. But my counter doubt was, then whoever created this must really have some real wild imagination to cook up something like that. So I have always thought that there is some authenticity to the document. And now, post facto, see what the grand plan is at and it comes from even members of the MPP themselves. It doesn't come from outside of the MPP. It comes from members of the MPP themselves. It comes from those who have left the MPP, like Alan Chamanting, like the former secretary. What is his name? He comes on 3 News. Nano Hininto. See what they tell us. They say it's a frog, a free so Jinidi. So
I say, you guys, you twisted our proverb.
But you
tell me what is it.
So the
So if members from the MPP are telling us these things, including Kennedy Agyapa, What hasn't he said? But because he himself is a man of his own timber, nobody is able to do anything to him. But the things he has said about the workings of this government are significant.
Are you surprised that all the 9 people who contested with Dr. Bawumia, the things that they said, they suddenly have forgotten about in just a space of another 1 year, and they are all back on the campaign trail, Dr. Bawumia? Are you surprised?
I'm surprised. I'm surprised, but I'm also not, because our politics is not about conviction anymore.
What is it about?
Convenience. I think, especially with the New Patriotic Party's convenience. You see, I don't believe that when you are a part of a team, if the team does wrong, you shouldn't be able to speak about it. But sometimes, yes, there's also some value to not washing your dirty linens in public if you haven't finished exhausting your internal mechanisms. But sometimes when you disagree fundamentally, sit it out. When you disagree fundamentally on major core principles, sit it out. Unless you're not a person of principle yourself. You don't have to come and sit and scream because you're destroying a vehicle, a party that you belong, that you love, but sit it out. But once you say, I saw Kobine Depong's launch when he spoke about the things that he
Ghana
said.
Beyond Aid and all of
and
those
how,
things.
They have failed monumentally. And so what are you telling Ghanaians? What has changed? What has transformed about this person that you so much did not support? But it's not only a construct with one political party. Let me be fair, because there were people who contest. Well. So it also tells us that when we are seeking political contest, as much as possible, let's stay closer to the side of the truth than maybe exaggerations or maybe just saying things for the sake of saying them. But the realities of the matter is that whatever they have told us has played out, and you redress those issues on a daily basis, and Ghanaians see those issues on a daily basis. So there's no reason why we should give them a renewed mandate to come and reset a mess they have created. We cannot trust that Bawumia and Napo will come and tell us that no, this is not how much we really owe.
Things differently.
No, what would they do? They are still in this government.
They'll strike out e-levy.
No problem. They should take a rest. You see, when you are carrying our food and you're a family, okay, we're a family. Ghana is a family, isn't it?
It is.
And we're all children of this family. And they gave the burden. You are maybe you are the adults or something. You are the better able. So they gave you our food to carry. And you're on this journey. It's a long journey. And now we've seen that you are struggling. If we don't pick the food from your head, it will fall. And all of us will be affected. It's already falling. So much from our collective food has already fallen into thin air. And when a country is this distressed economically, and you see the rise of real estate, you see the rise of high-rise buildings, and all kinds of things are coming up. It's one of two things happening.
Tell me.
Your country has become a hub for illicit financial flows that are coming into these things, or ill-gotten wealth that is being laundered. Because everybody cannot be so poor, but a few people. How much do those buildings cost? Buildings are coming up. The occupancy ratios are very minimal. But everybody, why are they? Is that a business? Does it make business sense?
That you invest in what is not being patronized.
What is not being patronized? Unless you have some monies, like the amounts we saw. I wonder how much more money, is in the hands of ministers and government appointees in their homes and in offshore accounts. I wonder.
You once moderated the IEA debate.
Yes, I did.
Would you want a Dr. Bawumia Mahama debate?
I would have loved a debate in 2016, because in principle debates are good. They are an exciting addition to the political season, right?
Right.
And so debates should be a welcome addition to our politics. But we have played politics with this debates issue over the years. And for me, my starting point would have been when, because the actors today are JM and Bawumia, isn't it?
That's right.
And it was JM that called for a debate before, which was rejected by Baumia.
Right.
And my senior, Kweku Baako, had cause to believe that, when a government, a sitting government makes the first call,
you're ridiculing yourself.
Something. He said something about when it is a government that makes the first call, it is one of the ways to ensure that there is a debate. But JM made a call for a debate because the issues that they kept talking about, he didn't understand where it was coming from. He said, you people, you have not been in power before. You are saying all these things, writing all these 170 questions. You probably do not understand the inner workings of the realities, and today the fundamentals have exposed they themselves. So in principle, there's nothing wrong. But in principle, with the where the call is coming from, to the extent that you rejected the call and directed him to go and debate the market women, to go and debate the people of Ghana, to go and debate the teachers, to go and debate the nurses. What has changed today that it is you now calling for a debate after you have not even put yourself to interact with the media? What are you waiting for? This government has stopped the press briefings.
It was in 2019, the last one. I attended one.
They stopped.
The last one was in
because they no longer can answer the questions.
Oh no, come on.
And they
can
can't
answer the
they
questions.
can't answer the questions. Even the format of the one that they used to do was largely different from the Mills format, and even accounting to the people. He will answer all his questions. The format that we experience, sometimes they will call on other ministers to come and address some specific. But look at what JM did. 2.5 hours. He fielded questions from astronomy to zoology, from geography to accounting. Every aspect of the economy, he expressed very deep understanding about. So nobody can watch that JM interview and say that he cannot do a debate. A debate that, look, they give you time limits, because when we did the debate, there is time limit. You have your main question, then there's an opportunity for follow-up. You have 3 minutes to answer your own question. 2.5 hours he stood there and fielded all these questions. How do you think that he cannot debate? What can he not debate? The interest rate, the inflation, the profligate expenses, the debt to GDP ratio, the excessive unprecedented borrowing, the debt exchange program, the corruption. What can he not debate? Exactly what can he not debate? But the fact of the matter is that the MPP always views themselves as special. When they make a call, you see, even on social media, when you go and make a post about a matter, and they come onto that post, they will never address your question first. They come and put a counter question, and then they now start flying away. Answer this question. Hey, come and answer this question. Why are you running away from my question? This is how they behave.
So they said to your own questions.
And then demand you to answer their question.
Having ignored your question.
So you ignored this man's invitation. No problem. And today you are sending him an invitation, and you insist that he should respond to your invitation because you are special, right?
Let's listen to Kweku Baako.
Kwame.
Yes.
Just a short one. Muda Kwame referred to some call for debate in Yadama. Kwame, Mamenka be intro. The surest way kill the prospect of a serious presidential debate is for one of the contenders to go out there and issue Takashia ne Patapa calls for debate in the public space, at many rallies, on social media.
And not
the surest way to kill the prospect of any meaningful, serious presidential debate. You don't go out there in the public space, at many rallies, on social media, and issue challenges. Takashi Patapa type of challenges to your opponents to come for a debate. You have killed that whole prospect. No debate. Case closed.
Who are you talking to?
To God.
Matisa, some of the civil society institutions, one more working on a proper debate.
This is not the first time.
No, it's not.
2016, similar things happened.
Yeah.
At rallies on radio and things, people were issuing challenges for debate. You killed the prospect of any serious, meaningful debate. One time.
Kweku Baku Jr. Is a senior journalist. That's our senior right there.
So same words then same applies now. So Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia calling for the debate has killed the prospects of any, serious debate. So it's not because JM cannot debate and should not debate. It's just that the call that is coming from someone who rejected his call and he's your elder brother, right. And every opportunity you have, this is not how we have been trained though. And then as Muslims and as Northerners, you honor your seniors, okay, that you also will be honored. But look at it, everywhere that he goes, there's what is called a fair contest. It's a political season. Right. There's a fair contest, but there's also an insulting contest. It seems that any opportunity that Bawumia gets, he takes a jab, at his elder brother. Right. Compared to how JM handles himself on platforms, he will not even mention your name. He will sometimes respond, in proactively and very concisely and very respectfully. Still, with all the provocation, you think he doesn't have words to use to describe you? He also has words to use to describe you.
See.
You stand on platform and say that his policies are hollow and empty like an empty barrel. At a time that all your economy, you have run away from your own economic messiah labeling, and you are now on a digital messiah drive.
Well, we're on a digital platform now. Now, Shamima, of all in fact, the manifesto is not out now, but of all the policies that have been announced, here and there, which one really sits with you? If you were not part of the NDC,
right,
which one would have sat with you?
The Women's Bank and the prospects of a 24-hour economy, and then the digital jobs are all very important. Because you see, where we are now, we have to come up with programs that rejuvenate the industrial and productive base. And I was making a point that we have done it before, because when Agyapa did the operation Feed Yourself,
right?
You see where food prices are, out of the range. Vegetables cannot even be bought these days. You take a small cabbage, they will tell you 20 Ghana cedis. A small cabbage. We went to the north. I went to Savlugu. I went to Northeast to do some programs. The watermelons, one as big as this, 10 cedis, 5 cedis.
Wow.
The one, if you come to Ghana, Accra here, is like 60 Ghana cedis. They are all getting rotten on the street. He promised a watermelon factory. On his way, we saw it on my way to Waluwali.
You saw the factory?
I saw it. It's not been completed. It's not been done. It's standing there.
No, but Nana Kumia said it's been done.
So it is not that. It's been done. Is it operationalizing? Are there any fruits that you have seen from the Waluwali watermelon factory? So many uncompleted projects. So look, today I heard news 6 billion is owed contractors. Yep. And when you stifle contractors, you stifle every aspect of the economy, because contractors owe so many people. And when you say that this is an NDC contractor, so don't pay him, you forget that he has gone to take supplies from K4E, who is an MPP. I'm just giving an example. Right. The material. So when you stifle contractors, you stifle every aspect of your economy. So we need to find a way of revamping local productivity, because we will keep the IMF program. We can't come away from it. And we cannot go and borrow again. We haven't been servicing debt. And the servicing of debts is going to start coming up again. Look at all the debts. Sometimes I wonder, just where are we going to get this money to do this? So unless we revamp productivity. And revamping productivity means that all the factories, the companies, both private, public, who have had to reduce their operations because of the taxes and cost of inputs and implements, and have to reduce their manpower because they can't pay. If we put in the necessary policies and framework to incentivize them to increase productivity, when COVID came, a lot of factories were able to retrofit themselves to produce sanitizers, face masks, and those things.
shields and
So when he says that we must look at the primary goods that we use, those easy, low-hanging fruits, so that we can revamp production of those items, so we don't have to import them. There is logic to it. And the vision is put the nation back to work in a way that ramps up productivity across board, creates jobs, creates incomes, no matter how small, so that at least people can eat. You see, at least people should be able to eat, whilst we try to plug the loopholes and the leakages that this administration has created. I am even saying that if we so find people cannot account for investments that they have, or things that they have bought, material things, we must claim them back, liquidate it, and use it to defray our debts.
I hear you. Shamima, we have to go. What will be your call to action?
My
you
call
did
to
one
action.
on Saturday.
Yes.
Okay.
It's
Let's
the
hear
same
you.
call to action. Inviting fair-minded Ghanaians, as well as fair-minded Ghanaians within the New Patriotic Party, who themselves have confessed to many of us that things are not going well. That's Ejano, MPP Ejano, and Koye. You have expressed it yourself. I think that our president himself has checked out, and he just can't wait to leave. I think he's tired, he's exhausted, he's overwhelmed by the burdens of the mismanagement that his government has left us with. So the call is one: we must all stand up and be counted for. It is this middle ground of neutrals, this middle ground of conscientious Ghanaians. They are the ones that have ensured that our democracy is sustained. Because when it matters the most, they rise up and they side with the right side. And siding with the right side is siding with the majority of Ghanaians, with the local economy. I say, all of us, please look at your own local economy. Look at the state of your money, the state of your investment, the state of your savings, the state of your income, the state of your employment. Also look at the state of your health, your access to health, your affordability, the drugs that you are supposed to buy. Are you buying drugs and breaking it into two so that you can save your drugs? These are the realities. Your access to education, the challenges your parents are going through, even in an era of free senior high school, having to cope up so much. Please, change is here. Give your vote to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. He is the experienced hand. A vote for him is also a vote for women. It's also a vote for persons with disability. It's also a vote for marginalized group. Vote for him to reset this country and put us back on winning ways. Thank you so very much. I'm a bear, Subai. I'm a bear, Subai. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you for coming. We're
and
grateful.
great job.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Please
I'm
keep
grateful.
at it.
Thank you.
We need more like you in the system.
Thank you very much.
And
Grateful.
Ellen as well.
Thank you. Shamima Muslim there, gender activist, member of